Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 704 once again for episode 114 of the 815 Exchange. And this weekend was a very, very busy one for me. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I was outside. It is also fall break, so shout out to my other university students that are on fall break. Let's enjoy this. I have the next today and tomorrow off. I still had to do homework this past weekend, which was not, the greatest thing to always do on fall break. But nonetheless, it is fall break. I was at a NASCAR race. I was at the Roval, so we'll talk about that in the Roundup. And of course, we have plenty to talk about in football. And it is baseball season. It is playoff baseball season, should I say. So plenty to talk about today. Very excited. Should be a good episode. I know no reactions. Like I said, I was busy this past weekend. Reactions will be back this coming week. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. And everything you are looking for can be found in the description. Whether that is timestamps, whether it's my social medias, both of them can be found in the description. So everything you're looking for can be found in the description. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's head over to the college football world because some interesting developments occurred yet again. Now, no Charlotte to talk about because once again it's fall break, so we also had a bye week this week. So nothing to talk about, nothing me to bash my home. We don't gotta do that. We're not doing that this week. However, we are going to kick straight to the national schedule because boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Starting off with Michigan and Indiana. Michigan, it was not the best first half for a multitude of reasons. Of course, my prayers go out to Mike Hart, who apparently had a seizure on the sideline. So, my prayers go out to the Michigan legend. Hopefully, he can get healthy, as soon as possible. And, just kind of wish him the best of health in dealing with that situation. So, Michigan was carrying heavy hearts during the game, so that could have been the effect. Or maybe just Indiana was playing them tough and Michigan was off their game a little bit. You can call it whatever it was, but Michigan did not come out the way we've seen the Wolverines come out really in this first half of the season overall in this first half of this game. However, they did prevail 31-10. J.J. McCarthy came back strong in the second half. 304 and 3 touchdowns for J.J. Blake Corum continues to be him. All right? I'm going to refer to a couple people as him in this episode. There are certain people that are just him. Blake Corum is him. He's one of them ones. No debate about it. I said last week he might be the second best running back in the country. He did nothing to disprove that this week. 124 yards and a touchdown for Blake Corum, doing normal Blake Corum things. Michigan as a team also had 7 sacks against Indiana. So the defense, when it was needed, when it was time, the offense wasn't completely rolling, they still showed up, and I think that bodes well for this Michigan team as they go forward. It seems like them and Ohio State might be hell-bent on, yet another fantastic edition of the game. Heading over to the South. All right, we're going over south and south to the east. We got Tennessee and LSU. Tennessee traveled down to the Bayou to take on the Tigers. And boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let me introduce you to a man. I've already called him on this show before, but I'm going to refer to him as him yet again. Hendon Hooker is him. Him. And arguably the Heisman favorite at this point. 295 yards and 2 touchdowns for Hook. Small, the running back, 127 and 2 touchdowns. Brew McCoy keyed in with 7 receptions, 140. Honestly, after everything, of course, Brew McCoy, USC transfer, feels like 2 times over because he was originally committed to us. Then he committed to Texas, and he went to Texas, and then he came back to us. Then was, dealt with some injuries, dealt with some eligibility stuff, and just kind of never was able to find the field. And of course, one of the wide receiver U's, so it's kind of hard to find the field as a receiver sometimes. So, unfortunately, it just never worked out. Always loved him as a player at modern day. He was fantastic. Now he's here at Tennessee, balling out, back-to-back 100-yard games for Brew, so love to see that. Happy for the boy. And, of course, Hook, what more to say, 336 legend, and now he's doing it big in Knoxville. Tennessee manhandles LSU 40-13 and get it done. Them and Alabama play in a very, very important game next week. TCU takes out Kansas, and what was the game day? Game of the week. Now, the worst possible thing that could happen to Kansas, it was the no good, very bad week for Kansas. Even though they were competitive, and shout out to B, alright? Because the bad thing is that Jalen Daniels, your Heisman candidate, star quarterback, got injured in this game very early. Pretty much changed the game, obviously, with a player that magnitude having to leave the game for Kansas. However, being balled out, the backup balled out, 262 and 4 touchdowns. Can't put this game on him. He showed up and showed out. Now, I will say TCU won this game because of two people. Two people. Max Duggan going for 363 and 4 touchdowns. Yet again, he's been fantastic this year. And Quentin Johnston has been a monster. A monster this year, and he has been a monster in this game. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, not 10, not 11, not 12, not 13, but 14 receptions for Johnston, 206 and a touchdown, and he was just unguardable. Unguardable. Kansas could do nothing with him. He has taken that jump, and if Johnston keeps this, keeps this kind of role of play, kind of keeps it going, we got to talk about him as one of the best receivers. Just off of what I've seen this year, he might be one of the best receivers in the country, and we can probably already say that he's been a star this year. And TCU goes into Lawrence, gets a big road win. They seem like they might be the class of the Big 12. We will see. But you know what? All credit to him, because, just an impressive win. I just realized I left the game I absolutely have to talk about off of this, and I'll wait till after I talk about this next game in the Big 12. And then we'll round up with, the two teams that are leaving the Big 12. But, like I said, let's go to this next game first. Oklahoma State takes out Texas Tech 41-31. Spencer Sanders, once again, does Spencer Sanders things. 353 and 3 touchdowns. Green with 5 receptions, 115 and a touchdown. However, for Texas Tech, it was a little bit of a shootout. While we're the Red River shootout, which we're about to talk about, wasn't so much of a shootout, or it was a one-sided shootout. This was much more of a shootout. All right. Morton, 379 and 2 touchdowns. Bradley, 8 receptions, 119 and a touchdown. Oklahoma State gets it done 41-31. Once again, Spencer Sanders and that offense have been rolling. And yeah, they get it done yet again. Now, of course, we have to talk about it, man. Normally, we don't really talk about, we don't talk about unranked games that often. We don't talk about, teams that, aren't really a factor, but these two teams just happen to be, two of the major teams in college football and two of the biggest stories. This game was a massive deal. Going into this, and of course Texas is ranked this week, so it's technically me still talking about the ranked team. But Texas beats the brakes, as I always say, off of Oklahoma. It wasn't close. The score is 49-0. It wasn't that close. It was not that close. Quinn Ewers is one of the best quarterbacks in America, as expected. Believe the hype. Him coming back made all of the difference for this team. Even defensively, they looked energized, knowing that they had no offense, because Hudson Card did a fine job, but Quinn Ewers is different. He is one of them ones. Now, I won't bestow the title of him upon him yet, but he might be. That's something I said on Twitter. But you know who is him? Bijan Robinson, and we knew this, best running back in America. 130 and 2 touchdowns in his final Red River rivalry game. Jatavian Sanders gets 2 touchdowns, 5 receptions, and 71 yards as well. Well, yeah, like I said, Quinn Ewers, 289 and 4 touchdowns passing. My God. He was on another level. He was on a completely different level from... it was night and day watching him, and then for some reason, Brett Venables and Jeff Levy decided to trot out Davis Bevel, who was the 3rd string quarterback at Pittsburgh, and I'm not sure he's an FCS level quarterback. They just kept trotting him out, and it was one of the worst quarterback performances I've seen all year. They clearly didn't trust him. They kept going to the wide. It was one of the worst call games I have seen all year, especially from an offensive standpoint. Now, the Texas defense put on a show. They shut it down. don't get it messed up. They caused a lot of havoc for Levy in that offense and for Davis Bevel in that offense and Eric Gray in that offense. But my God, it was the worst called. It was one of the worst called offensive games. It was an Iowa level bad play calling and offensive output from Oklahoma. And that's insane to say because Oklahoma is known for their offense, especially in recent times in that Lincoln Riley era. And it was just, they are lost. They are lost. Now, Venables, to an extent, is playing with house money, understandably. He doesn't have his guys. He doesn't have those same, dogs that he had at Clemson that made that defense special. But there's got to be a limit somewhere. And, of course, I'm not saying to fire BV, God forbid, that would be stupid. But there has to be some type of limit on which is the talent drop-off that steep. Is it that steep to where this team is just bad? This Oklahoma team is just bad. This is not a even bowl eligible worthy football team. They quit against their biggest rival and got shut out. This is statistically speaking, the worst loss for Oklahoma. One of the worst losses in program history, and the worst loss since they got 60 bombed by prime Nebraska in '97. I mean, it was pitiful. The effort was pitiful. The play calling was pitiful. It was a disaster class from Oklahoma and an absolutely masterful performance from Sark and from that Texas team. They should enjoy the riches. They would probably be, honestly, arguably a top 10 team if Quinn Ewers isn't injured, in my opinion, with some of the games they could have won. They definitely would have beaten Alabama. I will not take any questions about that. They would have absolutely, I've seen enough. They would have beaten Alabama had Quinn not gone out with that injury. But you know what? It is what it is. We'll see if Texas can back up all of this momentum in Oklahoma. I don't know where rock bottom is because you're just in free fall right now. We'll see where they eventually stall out. But it is ugly, 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 ugly in Norman right now. Now, as a USC fan, of course, I had to pay special attention to this game. UCLA took on Utah, and oh my goodness. I'm a little bit worried. UCLA gets the win 42-32. We play Utah next week, by the way. DTR has arrived, 307 and 5 touchdowns. Yet another multi-touchdown game for DTR. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in America this year. Zach Charbonnet, fantastic, nearly 200 yards rushing. Finished with 198 and a touchdown himself. Clark Phillips showed up. He got a pick 6 off of DTR, one of the best quarterbacks in America, but it wasn't enough. Cam Rising didn't have his best game, and boy, oh boy, did UCLA play their best game. When it mattered most, against a top-tier opponent in Utah, the team that was projected to win the conference this year, they showed up and they ran the show at home in the Rose Bowl. So what? Say what you want about the crowd, but they're winning games. All right, Chip Kelly has this team rolling. They've got the veteran experience. They've got the talent. I am worried. I haven't been able to say I'm worried about a UCLA team since, I don't know, when Brett Hundley was there, and I don't even know if I was worried then. Or maybe Josh Rosen. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Josh beat us. So, since Josh Rosen was there, I have not been worried about a UCLA team since. Even when we were bad, I just didn't care. I am legitimately almost terrified of this UCLA team. I'm a little bit scared of this Utah team because I'm not so sure about our defense, even though they keep showing up. They just keep stressing me out in the first half, and then we pull away. But I'm a little bit stressed. I'm a little bit worried about UCLA. That game could have a lot of stakes depending on how next week goes with USC versus Utah, which is going to be a massive, massive game, the biggest game of the year for us at that point. So, the second half of the schedule looking like it might be a monster, and UCLA looking dangerous. Ohio State takes out Michigan State 49-20. Boy, oh boy, the Heisman favorite is C.J. Stroud. 361 and 6 touchdowns. Now, of course, y'all know my relationship with C.J. Stroud. I don't need to say it. But you know what? For the sake of me finally going back and talking about Ohio State again this week, I will say it again. I think he's a terrific quarterback. He's probably QB1, technically speaking, in this draft class, considering Bryce is hurt right now. We'll see what happens when Bryce gets back. But Stroud is legitimately, he's a terrific quarterback. He's a great player. Yes, I think he's aided by the fact that he has absolutely no question the best receiving corps in America with a bunch of guys that are going to be number 1 receivers in the NFL one day. Absolutely. Absolutely. His stats are absolutely boosted by that, and they bail him out more than a few times each game. It is what it is. But you know what? He still balls out, so all credit to Stroud. He was a monster in this game. The Spartans had no answer. Like I said, 361 and 6 touchdowns. Not much to say about that. Trevion Henderson. I went on this podcast and said Maya Williams was better than him. He has answered the bell. 118 and a touchdown for Hendo. A Mecca, a Bunka. I don't know which one of these receivers. It's absurd. It's getting absurd, Ohio State. I'm serious. It's getting absurd, okay? It's getting absurd. A Mecca, 5 receptions, 143 and a touchdown. Led them in this game in receiving yards. But it was Marvin Harrison Jr. with another hat trick to go with 7 receptions and 131 for the guy that many people are calling quite possibly the best receiver in America, and he's not even the best receiver on his team. It does not make any sense. It does not make any sense. They are a wide receiver factory. They need to pay Brian Hartline all of the money, a blank check. Whatever the Yankees give Aaron Judge is what Ohio State needs to give Brian Hartline. He is the most important, even more so than Ryan Day at this point, potentially the most important coach on that team. It is getting ridiculous. Michigan State, I am so sorry, you ran into a buzzsaw, and they don't even have the best receiver and one of the, if not arguably, the most talented, I can go that far, in JSA. It's absurd with this Ohio State team. In my opinion, they're the number 1 team in the country, but Georgia got it for this week, so you know what? It is what it is. It's fine. Notre Dame barely survives BYU. Shout out to Notre Dame, though, because you know what? Marcus Freeman, since turning Catholic, is 3-0, so maybe Catholic, Marcus, maybe that's all he needed, was to transfer over to Catholicism, because now Notre Dame has got it back rolling. Drew Prine stepped up yet again, 262 and 3 touchdowns. Epps with 4 receptions, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. But a big win for Notre Dame kind of gets them back on track, especially against BYU. They were ranked opponents, and that BYU team is solid. Very, very solid. So, Notre Dame, they leveled out, and now they're rising back up. Just kind of a tell of a good team, dealing with the injury zone, what they've had to deal with. And you know what? They're recovering nicely. So, shout out to the Fighting Irish. Alabama takes out Texas A&M barely. I can't even say that. I can't even really say Alabama defeats Texas A&M. It was really Texas A&M defeating themselves. Because boy, oh boy, welcome to another edition of Alabama. Probably should have not won this game. But they won the game barely by the skin of their teeth. Nick Saban is going to be stressed about beyond imagination this year with his team. Bryce Young, like we said, is out. Jalen Burrow stepped up. Now, he had 194 and 3 touchdowns, but it was his first game. All right, it was very clearly his first game starting in college football. So he struggled. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. He struggled. He is pretty one-dimensional right now as a quarterback, and against Tennessee, I don't know if that's going to fly. However, Bama fans, don't fear. Jahmyr Gibbs is here. 154 for Gibbs. He continues to be one of the best running backs in America. He does the heavy lifting for this team. And again, Texas A&M, I don't know what run the ball. You have Devon Achane. Just give him the ball, win the game. You beat Bama. Bama's, in free fall now, and having to deal with the fact that they just lost and now they got to play Tennessee. Just finish the game. Finish the game. That's all you had to do, and they couldn't do it. So, the Aggies don't get it done, and the Crimson Tide survive yet again. USC handles Washington State 30-14. Caleb with 188 and 2 touchdowns. Dye, 149 and a touchdown. Tooley with 3 sacks. Listen, I was stressed out beyond belief. But you know what? We came through. We got it done. All right? We got it done. It looked like it was going to be one of them games that just pulled it. Listen, we're playing with house money. Once again, we are playing with house money. We're 6-0 for the first time since, I don't know, Reggie and Matt and Lindell. Listen, I'm good. Now, keep it going. And we're going to find out how good this USC team is versus Utah next week. So that'll be a very big game, and we'll determine how good this team is. And I want no parts of the playoff. I just want a top-tier playoff, bowl game at this point. I would be delighted with that. But, you know what? I'll take it. Slightly terrified of next week, but I'll take it. Fight on. And to end off, quickly with a pair of upsets and keeping it in the Pac-12, Arizona State upsets Washington 45-38, and South Carolina upsets Kentucky 24-14. Even without Will Levis, or should I say without Will Levis for Kentucky. So, of course, that had a big effect. But nonetheless, congrats to Scar. Building some momentum, but I wouldn't feel yourself too much. You're still South Carolina, so, relax, Scar. But good win. Big upset. Nice to, get that, keep going. Maybe you'll be bowl eligible. And, yeah. On the other hand, Oklahoma, prayers, all right? Prayers to you, because it's not looking great, is it? It's just not looking great. Now to head over to the MLB. Aaron Judge hit 62. Thank God. Thank God. Didn't get the Triple Crown, but we did. He did. My boy, he got it. The Yankee record stays a Yankee record. And of course, there was this big discussion about Bonds and McGuire and Sosa and the real MLB record. And it's a black mark. That whole scenario is such a black mark and stain on the game of baseball because you allow them in and you allow us to sing their praises, and you praise a bunch of cheaters who cheated their way to these accomplishments in this game. And let's be honest, if they had not taken steroids, would not have done the numbers or done the things that they did, or have accomplished these feats. Not even close. Not even close. Even though Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame because he had a Hall of Fame first half of his career and was great before steroids, he took it and became a god. But if you don't acknowledge them, you kind of alienate this part of your history, which unfortunately it is, that brought a lot of excitement to the game. And, it was a big deal. The home run race in the late 90s was a big deal. Watching Bonds do the things that he did was a big deal, and it was a big deal for a lot of people. So it's a terrible situation for the MLB, is because you can't acknowledge them, and you're kind of stuck in a situation where you can't not acknowledge them. So it's a stain. It's a stain on the game, and yeah, I really don't know where to go. But you know what? Aaron Judge, face of the franchise, blank check. Pay him whatever you need to pay him. He's him. All right, he is the guy. Love you, AJ. Please stay. Now, it's time for Chris and the New York Yankees to address their enemies here in the wild card, because it is October after all. So the ML playoffs are here, and so is the wild card. Cleveland, let's talk about enemy number one, Op 1. Yeah, Cleveland takes out Tampa Bay in a pitcher's duel between two former top prospects in Tristan McKenzie and Tyler Glasnow. I believe McKenzie finished with 8 Ks. He had it rolling. Some of the stuff he had in this game was absolutely disgusting. But yeah, shout out to the boy, because, yeah, problem. He's a problem. And the Indians advance to the wild card. They take out the Rays. Enemy number 2, the Seattle Mariners. For the first time, for what feels like a billion years, the Seattle Mariners have not only won a playoff game, but they have advanced. They have advanced past the wild card as they take out Op number 2 in Toronto. They take off the north side. Let me give a shout out to Cal Raleigh, because I knew Cal Raleigh was one of them ones, all right? I watched him play baseball at Florida State. I watched him in person at ACC baseball tournaments. He was always exactly what he is now. I don't know why he was ranked so lowly as a prospect, but it was disrespectful, and y'all better put some respect on Cal Raleigh's name, because he is a great, great young catcher and going to be one of the best catchers in the league for quite a long time. Mariners, keep that man locked up. He is special. 3 for 4 and 3 runs for Cal in this game. I do have to give some credit to T.O. Oscar Hernandez. He was repping for the 6th side. 2 home runs and 2 for 4 as well. He was great. The offensive production was there, but the pitching wasn't. And the Seattle Mariners, congratulations. Y'all deserve it. Y'all move on. Now, another fandom that has gone through a lot of hardship, but you know what? They deserve it. And thank you for taking down Op number 3 in the biggest op of them all, the New York Mets. Okay? The New York Mets. I heard nothing but talk from the Mets and Mets fans the second half of the season. Oh, the Mets are 101-60. Oh, the Mets really run New York. The Mets are the kings of New York. They're the best team in New York. All of this stuff about the New York Mets being the best team in New York, them being better than the Yankees, all of this talk just for you to get shut out by the San Diego Padres in the wild card. In the wild card. Juan Soto, who hasn't been Juan Soto as of lately, decided to become Juan Soto yet again. He goes 2 for 4, and what is that? I think he had 2 runs as well. Kim stepped in big time for Tatis this year for the Padres at shortstop. He was great in this decisive game. 3 walks, 3 runs. And just like that, say goodbye to the New York Mets. You do not run New York. You will never run New York. Rest in peace. Now, the Philadelphia Phillies take out... I'm good with the Cardinals. Yeah, but the Phillies take out the Cardinals. Bryce Harper, injury this year, possibly derailed yet another MVP season. But however, Bryce Harper was Bryce Harper in this game. He homers. They ended up being the decisive run as well. They win 2-0 and shut out the Cardinals here and advance. So congrats to the Phillies. Another, you know what? Hasn't been great as of lately. Bryce kind of helped, turn that around for the Phillies. So congratulations. Welcome to the playoffs. And MLB playoffs is here. It's October. It's an exciting time to be a baseball fan. And of course, the Yankees are probably going to stress me out, even though I addressed all of our ops this week. But nonetheless, it should be good. And it's going to be fun to, recap it every week here on the 815 Exchange. Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to head over to entertainment, so let's talk about it. Y'all know what it is. It's the best show on television, House of the Dragon. And boy, oh boy, oh boy. First off, we're going to talk about Patty Constantine. Now, Ewan Mitchell killed it. Matt Smith killed it. Emma Darcy killed it. Patty Constantine deserves awards for what he did in this episode. He has been great. A legendary performance as King Viserys, especially here in episode 8. The man was this was his episode. Alright, this was his episode. He acted his off in this episode. Oh my goodness. He was, phenomenal. One of the best performances of the season for Patty. Viserys in his final days is what the recap basically was. Of course, he died, as we saw, sadly, in the episode, and I'll talk about that. But basically everything, just kind of seeing him in pain, him being barely held together by the milk of the poppy and whatever the maesters have been giving him. And, just kind of seeing him and Damon's relationship, especially in this episode, with Damon helping pick him up. He dramatically comes to save Rhaenyra one last time, even in the state, even with the mask. He comes one last time because of his love for his daughter. He shows up and takes the throne to make a decisive decision on who should have the Driftmark throne and the Driftwood throne. So, and then Daemon helping him up. And then in that entire scene, Daemon Targaryen being Daemon Targaryen. The Rogue Prince is the Rogue Prince. For as much as the absolutely cruel, villainous stuff he does, he has these moments that bring him back, and humanize him, like his love for his brother, which was displayed here, his love for Rhaenyra, despite what you want to say about it, very much so loves that woman, and of course, he's cool, man. Daemon is cool. It's what makes him a great character. It's what makes the Rogue Prince a great character. And it was a change from the books, actually, him slicing Daemon in half like that. But you know what? I was fine with it. And then, of course, the feast and Viserys just being happy in that moment. And, of course, we'll talk about the events there. And then, of course, in the ending, and what perfectly encapsulates, Viserys' reign. He gets peace, right? He sees his family finally come together, even though we'll talk about what happened at the feast. But, Alicent and Rhaenyra, they called a truce. They're done fighting. They want to be friends again. They miss each other, right? They want to try this again. He, in his death and dying moments, and just kind of out of his mind, tells the prophecy, which Alicent has no idea about, and has no idea really what he's talking about, and keeps asking him, why are you talking about Aegon? Are you talking about your son? And you know, he's talking about the prophecy of the prince that was promised, the song of ice and fire, and it just and now Alicent has to press the claim because she thinks, my husband's dying wish is that his son apparently sits on the throne. So yeah, I mean that's also a little bit of a change and kind of why Alicent presses the claim. I don't know how I feel about this great big potential war, civil war, being happening off of a misjudgment, but you know what, it is what it is, and just kind of perfectly encapsulates Viserys' reign. He gets peace, he gets this great moment, and then he just crumbles it, not on purpose, not maliciously. It just all crumbles in its last moments. So yeah, Patty was great as Viserys. Rhaenyra and Daemon, of course, were a dynamic duo here. Rhaenyra continues to be incredibly reckless, and as great of human beings, she has made Jace and Luke, who are better. I mean, they were cute kids, but they had issues. Jace, by all accounts, seems to be a good egg. He seems to be a good man, on the path to being a good man. However, Rhaenyra and Daemon, even though that's not his kids, have failed him. She has failed her sons. And she continues to fail her sons, and it's becoming a theme. She's failed to protect them. She's failed to notify them of their true parentage until they have to figure out themselves, right? And she's just, as good of a parent as she is in making them as people, she is failing in certain aspects that are going to be problematic here. And then I don't know why. You have Daemon Targaryen, one of the greatest warriors currently in Westeros, and they have no idea how to fight. They have no idea how to fight. They are petrified. And they should be. Because you know what? Daemon Targaryen is no longer the only rogue prince in Westeros. There is another. And boy oh boy is he a menace. Aemon Targaryen is a certifiable menace, and I love him. Just like I love Daemon in terms of a complex character, I love Aemon. They're probably my two favorite characters right now. They're it's perfect. And they're mirrors of each other. Their names are anagrams of each other. It's honestly, Daemon and Alicent might need to have some severe questioning, because that could be Daemon's son. That could be Daemon's son. The mutual admiration in these little moments that were done in the show were absolutely perfect. Like when Daemon cuts down Aemon smiles at his uncle. Then, in the previous episodes, we've seen Daemon smiling at younger Aemon's antics before the great, legendary, one of the most iconic moments in all of A Song of Ice and Fire that we finally got, which was the strong toast after Viserys leaves, of course. They bring out a roasted pig, which I don't know who did it. I don't know if it was Luke. I don't know if it was Jace. But it was stupid. It was stupid. And you got what you got, after coming. All right, now you had that. You deserve that. Especially, listen, it's like the uncle from Snowfall. Better teach a man how to squabble. Damn, you better teach a man how to squabble. Because Aemon's not playing no more games. He had that growth spurt. He got them Aegon, Daemon, Maegor genes. He is him. Alright? He is a problem. And he has Vhagar. He's beating Kristen in training now. He is him. That boy is a problem, and he does not care about none of that. Alright? So Jace, you gonna need them strong genetics to really kick in, because you throwing them weak punches not gonna go. Alright? Because he gonna keep calling you those three strong boys, and there's not gonna be nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. Luke decides to laugh at Aemon, so Aemon, of course, goes with the legendary three strong toast, which kicks everything off. Of course, Jace attacks Aemon. Doesn't go well. Aemon eats it like it was nothing, pushes him over. Aegon, who's they went kind of overboard, I think, in my opinion, in making Aegon he's like a villain. You can't come back from being a rapist. I'm going to be honest. And trigger warning on that. I'm apologizing to any women watching this that has a trigger warning. I apologize. I probably should have said that beforehand. But you don't come back from that as a character. I mean, they can still make him complex, and I trust the showrunners, but I don't know if you can come back from that, because that's just, And it's partially not his fault in a sense because he's just had an abusive childhood. But I don't know if there's any way to come back and making him morally gray and trying to make us sympathize for Aegon. Even though I'm trying to trust him, but I think they went a little overboard with that whole scenario, in my opinion. If this was a very sympathetic episode to the blacks, which is not. I mean, it's kind of a little bit. It's a little bit much. It's a little bit much. It kind of feels like a glossed over kind of history because their discretions are a little bit less. They're less dramatic or as in your face as the Greens. The Greens' transgressions are a little bit more visual, visceral that you can see. The blacks, while still doing terrible, horrific things, are less so, and you see all these moments of them being more sympathetic than we get for the Greens. So I think that's why it's kind of tilting the crowd. Plus, Rhaenyra is the protagonist. She's the protagonist of the show. Let's be real. But yeah, Aemon Targaryen, certifiable menace. Aegon put hands on Luke. And then, of course, Daemon and Aemon stare off. Daemon, who is just amused by this entire thing because he's looking in a mirror at himself from when he was younger. They have a little stare off. They have, a little standoff. And Aemon concedes to his uncle, maybe out of respect or whatever, because that's the only person he respected. And I think in that entire room is his uncle. So, if they weren't on separate sides, they probably could have committed unspeakable war crimes together. And honestly, I would have loved to have seen it. Daemon with his totally not bastard nephew and seen how that went. But, Aemon's great. Strong boys, good eggs. Jason, Helena, what could have been? What could have been? What could have been? Bayella is beautiful, by the way. The young actor they have for her actress, she looks absolutely beautiful. Perfect choice there. We saw her in Rhaenyra here. Rhaenys is still the coolest grandma in all of Westeros. Alright, she's still the OG. She showed her loyalties to Corlys. Her and Rhaenyra made up. And another great episode. It's going to all go to crap next week. It's going to be a madness. But overall, another great episode of House of the Dragon. Now, let's talk about music. Only built for Infinity Links. Quavo, Takeoff, their joint album. Not going to give a rating on either of the albums, but I talked about this week. But it was pretty good. I don't think it was as good as some people are saying. I think if I had rated, it'd be in that 7-8 range, depending. Probably more of that low 8 range. So not album of the year like we've seen earlier this year and earlier this past couple months. But still solid. I think Big Stone was my favorite off of the first listen. And then Survivor's Remorse Side A from G Herbo. That was fantastic. That would definitely sit closer in that higher 8s. Maybe even in that low 9s range. I'm not going to say it's a perfect 10. But definitely up there. I absolutely loved it. Flashbacks from Jeremiah had no business being as good as it was. Real Rap Feet, The Butcher was absolutely fantastic. And looking forward to Side B because Side A, Herbo did his thing. And should be great. But good weekend entertainment. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in week 5 of the NFL. And, I was going to list off more stuff, but this game really doesn't deserve it. It really doesn't deserve it. The Colts won 12-9 in overtime, by the way, against the Broncos on Thursday night. That game was a crime against the sport of football. A crime. I don't know what happened to Russell Wilson on his trip over to Denver from Seattle. I don't know what happened. But that's not the same quarterback. That's not the same quarterback we even saw last year in the second half when they fell apart. That's not even him. I don't know who this Russell Wilson is, and I don't know what he did with the real Russell Wilson, but the Broncos probably need the real Russell Wilson to suddenly appear again. That's all I really need to say about that. Alright? This game was a crime. A crime against football. One of the, probably a certifiable banger contender for worst football game of the year. In college and in the NFL. It was despicable. A crime. Don't ever put the Denver Broncos on primetime. Again, for the rest of the year. Ever. I don't want to see this team. Disgusting. Disgusting performance. Colts win a disaster class of a game. The Giants beat the Packers. Yes, I said that right. Welcome to the NFC Beast. Alright? We used to be the NFC Least, and the Commanders still suck, and the Giants still suck, and I still hate the Eagles even though they're good. But you know what? We're a good division. Because the Giants are 4-1. I said they suck, but that's, they don't actually suck. Apparently, they might be a good team. Because you know what? Saquon Barkley is the problem child. Yet another touchdown and another good game for Saquon Barkley. Alright? He's back. He was back last week and probably back the week before, but he's back. He's back and he's doing Saquon stuff and causing all types of issues. Over 100 yards total for him, including his receiving yards. Daniel Jones did not turn the ball over, and that's going to be the key for him. Just take care of the ball, do what he does. He's never going to be a superstar, never even really going to be a star. But if he protects that ball and this offensive line continues to block for Saquon and the defense makes plays when they need to be made, then you know what? The Giants will be solid. I'm not saying they'll be a playoff team. I'm not saying they'll be good. I'm not saying even they'll even keep up this rate of 4-1 right now. But they will be okay. They will be okay. And they were more than okay against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers, can't even really put too much of it on A-Rod. 222, 2 touchdowns. Overall, he did his thing. It's just they got beat. They got beat. They got out-coached. They got outplayed. That's just how it is. All right? And it's a stunning road win for the Giants who come back in the closing, minutes. We're down 7 going into the fourth quarter. Brightwell, then Barkley, and then it was just too little too late for the Packers. And the G-men get it done. Congratulations, the NFC East up fantastic. The Pittsburgh Steelers down horrendous. Now, Kenny Pickett didn't throw 3 picks this week, so you know what? Improvement. He did go over 300 yards. They made him throw it 52 times. He did have a pick, though. He did have a pick. But let's be real. This was the Josh Allen show. And I knew this game was going to get out of hand when I saw Gabriel Davis go over top, who's on my fantasy team, by the way, go over top of the best safety in the world, Minkah Fitzpatrick. When I saw Minkah get mossed by Gabe Davis, I knew it was wraps. Knew this game was over. Josh Allen masterclass. 400 and, let me calculate it in my head right now, 466? Yeah, 466 yards total, 4 touchdowns, all passing for the MVP candidate, Gabe Davis. 3 receptions, 171, 2 touchdowns. By the way, that is an average of 57 yards a catch. Diggs did his thing as well. 8 receptions, 102, and 1 touchdown. So the dynamic duo had it working for the Bills. Dodson with a sack to go with 11 tackles. Kyrie Elam got a pick. I mean, it wasn't close. It wasn't close. The Steelers are not good at all this year. They are probably hoping and praying for Will Anderson at this point because it's not good. It's not good. It's okay, Steelers fans. You know what? 6 Super Bowls. You'll be fine. Bills, it's their time. Chargers take out the Browns 30-28. No surprise there. The only surprise is that this game was this close. Jay Herbo, 228, a touchdown. This was the Austin Eckler game. It was a running back duel. Straight up, 2 of the best running backs in the league, and Eckler and Chubb, and they did what they do. Eckler, 173 yards rushing and a touchdown. He also had 4 receptions, 26 yards, and a touchdown receiving. Nick Chubb, 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. And, running backs showed up. Of course, the Chargers on that defensive line having to unfortunately play without Joey Bosa for a sustained amount of time. Didn't matter. Actually, I wouldn't say it didn't matter. They didn't have a sack in this game, by the way. But, people like Derwin James stepping up and being the star that he is. The man had 14 tackles in this game and a TFL. It wasn't their cleanest performance. Mike Williams had 10 receptions, 134, filling in for Keenan yet again as wide receiver 1. So the offense came through, did enough. They got a field goal in the fourth to put them ahead, and they take out the Browns. The Vikings take out the Bears 29-22. Kirk Cousins, go ahead. I feel like we've said that quite a bit, especially with the Vikings. Go ahead, run late. And he hits Jettas for the 2-point conversion here. And the Vikings take out the Bears. Better game for Fields this week, but just wasn't enough. Jettas, 12 receptions, 154. You got to be able to stop him. Dalvin Cook, 94 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. The weapons came out for the Vikings, and they caused havoc. The Lions, we're not going to sing your praises this week. Y'all got blanketed by the Patriots. Of all teams to get blanketed by, the New England Patriots. 29-0. Bailey Zapp, in his first career NFL start, goes 17 for 21, 188, and a touchdown. He did throw a pick, but for overall, like I said, similar to Daniel Jones, protected the ball, let Ramondre Stevenson go over 100 yards. He did the heavy lifting in this game. You got it to Myers, 7 receptions, 111, and a touchdown. That's all you needed, especially with the way this defense played in this game. It's all you needed to do. Just don't turn the ball over. Just don't do it, and you'll be fine. Patriots handle business against the Lions. Very impressive win for them. The Saints and the Seahawks. The Seahawks just love these high-scoring games, and Taysom Hill was on one. I mean, was on one yet again. He's been good in previous years, but he's just been better than he's ever been this year. 60 yards to the crib, go-aheader in the fourth quarter with, 5 minutes and 22 seconds to go. This was just a series of big plays. Looking at these scoring plays, you got a 50-yarder from DK, a 35-yarder from Lockett, a 40-yarder from Lockett, a 69-yarder from KW3, and then Taysom Hill goes 60 yards to win the game. Taysom Hill, 9 carries, 112, and 3 touchdowns. Like I said, Kenny, that big 60-yarder, 88 yards and a touchdown for the Rook. Lockett had 5 receptions, 104, and 2 touchdowns. Geno had 268 and 3 touchdowns. Saints. I'm trying to see what Taysom did. Receiving, nothing. Alvin Kamara, almost 200 yards. Almost 200 yards total. Combined, 103 rushing, 91 receiving. So a typical AK-41 game. And yeah, the Saints win a thriller versus the Seahawks. Both of those two teams have delivered. They weren't, really expected, but for some reason, they just keep delivering. So it was a good matchup, one of the best games of the week. The Miami Dolphins season is over. It's over because y'all played Tua and you didn't have to play him. And now it's over. And you want to know why I know it's over? Because you just let the New York Jets put 40 on you. And by the way, sleeper, the Jets are 3-2. The Jets are 3-2 right now. So credit to them and credit to what they've got going in the New York, New Jersey, should I really say. Zach Wilson has come back, and like I said, what have I said? It's a reoccurring theme this week. Don't turn the ball over, and you will profit. Zach Wilson did not turn the ball over. He didn't throw picks. He didn't fumble the ball, and they won the game. That's all you got to do, especially when your defense shows up the way that the Jets' defense showed up. Now, they had 5 rushing touchdowns in this game. The Jets did by 4 different players. Carter had 2 of them. Breece Hall had 1. Braxton Berrios had 1. And Zach Wilson had 1. But overall, like I said, the defense had the Dolphins in prison. Teddy Bridgewater threw 1 pass. He got concussed. So now both of your quarterbacks are out with a concussion. Skylar Thompson had to step up. And listen, he's just not that guy. This isn't Kansas State. Respectfully. Mozart went 113 and a touchdown, and I don't know why they didn't run him more. But nonetheless, the Jets school the Dolphins 40-17. The Buccaneers take care of the Falcons 21-15. Mike Evans is back, and you know what? He's doing Mike Evans things again. Tom Brady, despite all the divorce rumors, continues. He's actually played better since it was unofficially announced that he was getting divorced to Giselle. So I don't know what that means, but Brady suddenly is playing like Brady again. Mariota even played a solid game, but it just wasn't enough. Lenny, oh my goodness, Lenny. 10 receptions, 83 yards for Lenny, and that has to feel good. How he's kind of developed that part of his game. Not that it was necessarily a weakness coming out of LSU, but he was definitely more highlighted as a runner than as a receiver. But he's definitely added to that element of his game. 56 yards and a touchdown for Lenny rushing. And Bucks get it done. Falcons played solid though. The Titans, the Commanders are the only bad team in the NFC East, it appears. The Titans get it done. Derrick Henry is back over 100 yards and back in the rushing title race. 102 and 2 touchdowns for King Henry as he leads the Titans over the Commanders. I almost called them the Deadskins. Oh boy, Trevor Lawrence. I've sang his praises earlier this year. I'm going to say you are not playing well at all, my boy. My brother in Christ. I don't know what happened these past 2 weeks, but you need to have short-term memory or maybe long-term memory and remember what you were doing wrong. Because I don't know what happened to Trevor Lawrence these past 2 weeks, but he is not the same player. He is suddenly not Trevor Lawrence. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's the Russell Wilson infection he's got in him right now. I don't know what it is, but the man cannot stop turning the ball over. Another 4+ turnover a game for Trevor Lawrence. Cost his team a very winnable game because, once again, this was another ugly game that finished 13-6, and the Texans get their first win of the season. So, the Jaguars are still the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, maybe we need to slow down on the hype because, it almost reached capacity, won Offensive Player of the Week, and then it's been down, and he's kind of in free fall a little bit, playing like it's a little bit troubling. We're going to see. Once, okay, fool me once, fool me twice, but you will not fool me 3 times. Hopefully Lawrence can get it back the 3rd time. 49ers take care of the Panthers 37-15. Jeff Wilson, masterclass, 120 and a touchdown. Garoppolo went 250 and 2 touchdowns. George Kittle, not been necessarily George Kittle. And it's something I noticed in this game. Solid game for him, but Kittle hasn't really been on this game. It didn't matter in this game, but it's something I think we might need to kind of the tight ends we thought were going to fall off. Everybody was like, Kelsey. And maybe they meant Kittle, because Kittle just hasn't been the same George Kittle this year. We'll see what happens. It might be a little bit of a scheme thing. Nick Bosa did not get a sack in this game, but the 49ers did sack Baker Mayfield 6 times. Simply put, Baker is just not that guy. He's just not that guy. Not that that's really too much of a surprise to really anyone, but Baker just does not appear to be that guy, and the Panthers are just going to have to live with it and hope they're bad enough to get either CJ or Bryce, or possibly even a Hendon Hooker next year in the draft, because Baker Mayfield just does not look like that guy, and I don't know how much longer he's going to keep Sam Darnold on the bench with the way he's playing. The Dallas Cowboys are 4-1, and we just beat the Los Angeles Rams on the road. I did not see this coming, but you know what? We just still got the defending champs. Stafford is clearly not all the way there, and this Rams team is clearly not the same team they were last year. But you know what? They got their ring, so welcome back to Purgatory, LA. Dallas, we up. We up. How about them Cowboys? Wasn't a flawless game, but it was a game that we could have lost, but we went out and we won. This defense, I don't know what y'all did with our old defense, but do not bring them back. I like this new defense much better. Dan Quinn, we were looking like a savant. Micah Parsons is a menace. Trevon Diggs is showing up, even though Cooper Kupp did catch him lacking that one time, and Kupp did have 7 receptions, 125 and a touchdown. So you know what? I do still feel good because we somehow kept him under 10 touchdowns, because Lord knows Matt Stafford loves to target Cooper Kupp. Tony Pollard reeled off a huge 57-yard run to answer that Kupp 75-yard touchdown. And overall, like I said, this defense has been playing out of their mind. They're winning us games, and I can't remember the last time they've been able to say that. Cooper Rush continues to not turn over the ball. And you know what? I'm happy. I'm happy. Let's keep the momentum going, because it's been great to be a Cowboys fan. The Eagles take out the Cardinals 20-17. The Eagles are real. Now, the Cardinals aren't good necessarily, but the Eagles are real. Jalen Hurts, another game, over 250 yards total. Another game with multiple touchdowns, 2 rushing in this game for him. Dallas Goedert nearly with 100 yards. He stepped into that Zach Ertz. This was the Ertz Bowl, right? Ertz over with the Cardinals. And his replacement outplayed him, straight up. Replacement looked better than the previous in this game. Now, Isaiah Simmons was all over the field for the Cardinals, looked a lot better. You'd like to see that, to show some positives for the Cardinals. But the Eagles, that's what this game was about. This game was about the Eagles. Cam Dicker with a 23-yarder with less than 2 minutes to go to win the game. And the Eagles are looking dangerous. The Ravens take out the Bengals in a back-and-forth game, especially in that fourth quarter. Joe Burrow took the lead with less than 2 minutes to go. Looked like the Ravens had done it again, blown another lead, and yet again, they were going to be under scrutiny and they would fall to 2-3. But instead, it would be the Bengals. Both of the teams that were in the Super Bowl last year sit at 2-3 here in Week 5, and I'm not sure how good they really are. Because Justin Tucker, Lamar Jackson's able to get Tuck in field goal position, and one of the greatest, if not the greatest kicker in NFL history does what he does. 43-yarder, straight cash, and the Ravens get a much-needed win. They're back in the win column. Lamar wasn't flawless, but you know what? When it mattered, 8 showed up. When it mattered, 8 showed up, and you can forgive him for any mistake he made in this game if he's going to show up when it matters and win you the game, and that is exactly what he did. Andrews, his favorite target, 8 receptions, 89 yards, and a touchdown. Burrow hasn't been the same Joe Burrow this year. Wasn't his finest game, to be completely honest, but nonetheless, we'll see what happens with the King of the North, because it looks like we might be getting a new king with the way their season is going. But nonetheless, the Ravens get the win. And to end off, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It is time for the Roundup. And before I talk about racing, I remember that there's a 7'4" demigorgon walking around straight out of a 2K15 demigod build, and his name is Victor Wembanyama. And for a lot of people, they had heard of him, maybe heard of the name, heard of his height, heard of his feats, but they hadn't seen it in real life, or hadn't seen enough of it, like on highlights. We saw it in full effect as the top 2 prospects in the draft next year. One near generational, Scoot Henderson of the G League Ignite took on each other. And it was a legendary duel in night 1 on Tuesday, as Vic finished with 37-4, and Scoot finished with 29-8. So both of them balled out. The Ignite got the first win. Both of them showed why they are the top prospects in the draft. All right, Scoot showed all those schisms of a great modern point guard, showed off some vision, showed off the explosiveness, the scoring ability, the creativity, the handle. It looked all there in terms of a point guard prospect. But boy, oh boy, is Victor Wembanyama different. Wemby is different. I have never in my life seen anything like Vic. No, I've never seen anybody that tall. 7'4", almost 7'5", that fluid. And it doesn't look like, you know how certain times with tall players, it can look a little stiff. It's not stiff at all. It looks fluid, like a guard was dribbling. He pulls up his shot. It's not janky. His release point is obscenely high, but it's wet. 7 threes in that first game for Wemby. The defensive effect, the blocking shot, there's nothing he cannot do, it seems. But was the hype justified? Was it just a one game, which was an instant classic, by the way? It's one of the best prospect versus prospect games we've seen in a very, very long time. Would there be an encore? And the answer was yes. Scoot got injured after bumping knees with Vic, which was ironic after everybody was like, oh, Wemby. You know, the one thing about, players that tall is they could get injured easily. He could be injury prone. And then Scoot was the one that gets hurt, in the collision. So, and then Victor leads the 92s to win the second game. He goes off for I think was it 34 and 11. A lot of people were like, the one thing he didn't do well was rebound the ball. He rebounded the ball much better this time around. And of course, he didn't hit the 3 like he did the first game, but it was still ridiculous. He pulled up from the hash mark. He went over to the corner and just pulled it recklessly. He had the Kobe fadeaway game. He has no limit on his potential. There is no limit on Victor Wembanyama's potential. He is the best prospect since LeBron. I love Zion. Love him to death. Love Luka. Love whoever you want to say. This is the best prospect since Bron. Is he as polished as Zion or Luka or whoever you want to put? Maybe not. Maybe not. Luka, let's be honest, he was MVP. He was severely underrated in terms of prospect, which is why I keep mentioning him, even though he was, whatever pick, I forget Luka was. But, he definitely should have been a generational prospect. The man was MVP of the second best league on the planet at 18. That's ridiculous. Playing for Real Madrid, it's ridiculous, all right? So he should be in that conversation even if he wasn't, hyped justly. But Wemby is the best prospect because even as a short king, the man is 7'4", moving like this. If he can score the way that he scored these past 2 games and has shown that ability to be able to, his bag at that height, how smooth he is, it's insane. It's hard to comprehend how good he was. And what's up with her prospect? He is a special one-of-one prospect. Purely generational in its truest form. Defensive abilities. He has an 8-foot wingspan. Great shot blocker. His strength, even though he will need to get stronger, didn't look, he wasn't getting bullied. He was not getting bullied in, the 2 games that we saw. He showed off some playmaking ability. He showed off some vision. He has a good handle. There's nothing he cannot do. He looks like a creative player. And truly generational. We'll see what the demigod does the rest of the year, but I'm missing him in the States, but it probably won't be too long, because the tanking this year is going to be ridiculous. It is going to be obscene. Adam Silver might have to make an announcement or call some type of, whatever, because the tanking is just going to be out of control this year. Wemby's a monster. Shout out to Scoot, though, because Scoot was hooping as well. That shot looked much better. He's definitely the number 2 in the class, in my opinion. Even though the Time Twins have been playing well, but I still think Scoot is just a level above. And, shout out to Scoot. Hopefully he gets healthy soon and, gets back to doing what Scoot Henderson does best. But, Wemby, generational. Beyond generational, almost. Speaking of another generational talent, Max Verstappen wraps up the F1 championship in Japan. As expected, when we saw him on pole, you know what it was. He also had the largest margin of victory in Japan's Grand Prix history. So yet another record for Max. That Red Bull car was unbeatable. He is now a 2-time WDC, which puts him in a very, very elite company. He is the best driver of this generation, and quite possibly the best driver on the planet. Certainly the best Formula 1 driver on God's green earth. Leclerc fought, just wasn't enough. Max is on a different level, and Ferrari squandered their chances earlier in the year to make this a true race. But Verstappen, he's him. He's just one of them. And Christopher Bell, like I said, I was at the Roval, so I saw it live in person. I went to both Charlotte races. It was good to see my people from 2011 again, and good to see my fellows of the Difference Maker Fellowship that I helped intern with. So it was fun to see all of them again. 3 VIP passes in 1 year is crazy compared to where I was last year. So I'll take that. Appreciate that NASCAR. It was cool seeing everybody, even Julia and everybody from RFK who let us sit in their box on pit lane, had grid access yet again. So another cool experience. Christopher Bell wins a chaotic Charlotte Roval. At the end, that was insane. I've never seen anything like that in my life. There was absolutely no caution flags being thrown, and people were wrecking all over the place. People were in the lead, and then they would spin out, and just Bell stayed consistent, and he gets the win that he needed to get to advance, and it knocked out Kyle Larson in shocking fashion out of the playoff. We will have a new champion, just a chaotic Charlotte Roval. Chris Bell gets another win, and moves on to the final 8. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed another great episode of the A15 Exchange, episode 114, Fall Break Edition. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Ocho, signing off.